Hello, everybody. Welcome to UGASports.com. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I am your host today. I'm joined by former Georgia Bulldogs head coach Jim Donnan, the man you were all tuned in to see, the man who we're going to pepper with questions for the next hour or so. So, in order to do that, I need you to add in your questions in the comments section. So, go ahead and drop in your questions for Coach Donnan. I don't have that many, so today is a great day for you to be able to pop your name up on the screen there and get your questions answered by Coach Donnan. Be sure to do that. Let me let our folks know that we are live. Please share this with your friends. It would mean a lot to us. It means a lot to our sponsors. It means a lot to me personally, and it makes things go a lot better for us on the back end if you share it with your friends and family. We appreciate it. Coach, I know you're going to tell me this because you tell it to me every time I ask you, because I start bugging you before spring practice starts. And after the first day of practice, I'm like, who's the quarterback? After the second day of practice, I'm like, who's the left tackle? There's a lot of position battles going on. Just so I don't get too crazy and we don't have too many about it. Week 3, you've had some practices in pads. Is it too early to start seeing guys step up a little bit? Is it too early to start saying this guy's leading? Or do we have to wait till this weekend scrimmage? This Saturday will be the first scrimmage. So kind of tell me where we are in the battles that are going on in spring practice.
Well, traditionally, you really don't make any moves until you have a full contact scrimmage. So I think the biggest thing right now for any coach, whether it's Georgia or wherever you are, is to try to indoctrinate new players into the system and figure out your older players who really know what to do with constant reps that maybe giving the younger guys a chance, help them a little bit as far as learning what to do. And, you got to establish your team, no question about it. But when you got so many young guys that you're counting on for different positions, not necessarily this year, but any year, they have a tendency to be a lot more successful operating with better players around them. So you just can't use the first team, but a second team guy that is pretty good can probably be even better with the first team type personnel with him. So what you try to do is, number one, teach your system to each guy. The second thing is work the systems together where the defense are on the same page. You don't want to come out there the first have some defenses that the offense doesn't have any idea how to block, and you get false sense of security because you think you're so good on defense, but nobody's blocking them because they don't know what to do, or conversely, lining up in some against the defense where they haven't seen it and they can't adjust to it. Now, I think to a certain extent, Kirby's always been good about wanting to press the defense and give them things they haven't looked at so they can see how they adjust. But it's a real process of working together, teaching each other what to do as far as another position guy out there, like a safety, a corner on a call, or a linebacker moving a defensive tackle inside and telling him where to line up on a call, or an offensive lineman telling the other guy, look, you need to do this on this, whatever it might be. But you build that confidence in each other, and you also learn the system. So I said, which is pretty much any kind of sport, knowledge of assignment. If you know what to do and have a good plan of what your assignment is, and then you have the proper technique to utilize that assignment, then you're going to have a chance. If you're confused and really not know what to do and are not using the right assignment, and then you couple that with the wrong technique, then all you do is go to the fire. So our coaches are really good technique. They teach fundamentals extremely well. And let's face it, you got to go against good players from other teams who have fundamentals, who have good knowledge of their system. So you got to learn how to combat it. So that's an all-encompassing answer there. But the bottom line is you better know your shit by the first scrimmage, because all of a sudden, if you don't, you're gonna be passed in the pecking order, and it's hard to catch back up because you got to seize the moment. When you get an opportunity as a player here in Georgia and you can jump in there. It's not anybody else's fault but your own if somebody else takes your job when you've had that opportunity.
And we got a question from Missy Emery we'll touch on there, but that's me mimicking the coaches to wrap that up in a nice bow, because as a journalist and seeing what the fans do, we look for conflict. So we're looking for position battles, who wins, and there's questions we don't know. Who's the starting left tackle? Who's going to be the quarterback? Who's going to be the cornerback opposite Kamari Lasser? Who takes over for Chris Smith? So we're trying to fill in those things. But you make a good point saying, look, that'll all work itself out as we teach them the plays, as we teach them the scheme, as we teach them the fundamentals, and whoever does that the best. And then in a scrimmage, like you say, when you get your chances, whoever does best for that. So we're putting the cart before the horse, and I appreciate that's why we love having you on, is because you explain what the hell's going on. So I appreciate it.
Well, the other thing that we do a good job of here that I feel like that really gives you an edge as a team is there's not a lot of wasted movement out there as far as what you're trying to get to the hole. So a lot of fundamental drills that entice what you're trying to do as a position group have tremendous carryover into the actual 11-on-11 type stuff, whether it be pass rush drill, whether it be supporting the run on the bubble screen, whether it be open field tackling, whatever it might be. All these drills are used to, just like a guy playing basketball, practicing his free throws or working how to get through a pick or playing against a full court press. I mean, you got to work on all those different things. So when you play in the game situation, you're able to handle it. And I think a real testimony to Georgia's success was like last weekend. Over 700 coaches came to the coaches clinic from as far away as Canada, everywhere. There is something beside hockey up there in Canada. And, so it's really a good fit to bring these coaches in and let them watch the drills that we do and maybe have them carry it over to their own practices. I used to tell our coaches when we would go visit another school or we'd go to a clinic or another coach would come in and talk to us about us, I said, they're going to try to pick your brain. They're going to do it. But I'd like for you to come away with one thing or one drill or one idea that you feel like could make you a better coach and make us a better team. And that's what I'm sure these coaches, these high school coaches, they've got to scale it back a little bit because their talent level isn't the same, but they do get a good feel for just how fundamental our practices are and the way we teach the game of football. For instance, stance. I mean, if you come out with a bad stance as any kind of player, then you're at a very much of a disadvantage once the play starts because the other guy that is in a better stance, he's probably going to out execute you just from that standpoint. So there's no reason why you can't get perfect stance every time before the ball snap. And I'm a big stickler on that because you don't want wasted steps. You watch a high school guy getting a 3-point stance as a wide receiver. Now they're getting a 2-point stance. And a lot of times the first step they take is a drop step with their back foot. Well, that's wasted time getting off the line of scrimmage. Or, you got to play to win the game, and you've got to learn how to escape against this guy. Well, you've got the whole game to practice on him. When you have a block, give him a little fake out when the band's playing, and I got to make this play. How's my best release going to be? What am I going to – how can I effectively get around this guy when I got to have it? And so fundamental stance, and, like guys catching the ball, whatever you do, I think it's really important that a receiver learns how to look the ball in and really do a good job of catching the ball with his fingers and not letting it hit his palms and waiting till the last second.
I've been coaching that wrong a whole year.
Wait till the last second to extend your arms. You don't give something for the defense to think the ball's coming, or also knock them away. So just little things like that. But there's no reason why you should be dropping balls because of lack of fundamentals. So you got to find, if you're teaching a young person how to catch something, give them an exact thing.
Oh, let's coach here real quick. We do want to get to some of the questions here. We're going to bring in, I got one from Miss Emery, got one from Phil Rogers. I probably have Coach switch locations in his house. I was supposed to have his thing hardwired by now, but that is my fault completely. Take a quick second here to mention one of our sponsors, our friends at Athens Ford. They have 374 vehicles on the lot as we speak. That number goes up and down consistently throughout the week. And I remember when we were talking about them a few years ago, they had 1,200, 1,300 cars on the lot. Then they were down to 200 during COVID when everything was back ordered. But that's still, when they only had 200, that was 150 more than anybody else had, or 180 more than some lots. So my point is, they have a ton of vehicles on the lot for you to choose from, new vehicles, pre-owned vehicles, and everything you get from them. You're absolutely going to love it because I say everything, just about everything you get from them has a lifetime powertrain warranty. So, of course, all their new vehicles, all their certified pre-owned, and any of the American or Japanese cars, non-European, up to about 80,000 miles, it's been pre-owned, will have a lifetime powertrain warranty. So think about it. You can go out there and buy a car with 65,000 miles on it, a Toyota, and it's going to have a lifetime powertrain warranty on it from this Ford dealership. That's not from everybody. That's from Athens Ford. So be sure to hit them up when you get a chance. I also want to mention our friends at Your Pie. Today is Tuesday. Now, after the show is over, I'm going to be leaving here. I'm going to hopefully grab a Your Pie on my way out, headed to the airport, taking a trip. Dr. Nabulsi has been invited to give a lecture in Germany. So I'm going to tag along with her. But I know there's going to be a lot of good food in Germany. I'm very excited about it. But before I leave, I'm going to have to give me some Your Pie. It's Tuesday. I'm going to use my app. I'm going to get double points. I already have a couple free pizzas, a free sandwich, a free gelato, free drinks, because I usually order on Tuesdays, even if I'm not going to eat on Tuesday, but I use the the delivery or the pickup app, order on Tuesday, so I get double points. So hit up our friends at Your Pie when you get the chance. All right. Got Coach back here. Coach, I just cut to a commercial break there. You were talking about the what to teach wide receivers, and this is quite important considering that Georgia's got two new wide receivers over there, some new guys that are showing up, some fast guys. And I mean, whoever the quarterback is, he's going to have a pretty good contingent to throw to. But again, it's you and I both. I remember even with A.D. Mitchell early on, he had some drop passes, and you teased Matt Landers about it. You say you shouldn't be dropping passes. We've seen Georgia drop a few, but that's not been an issue for the last 3-4 years. And they've had different wide receiver coaches. It's been, you say that Kirby Smart stresses fundamentals. Well, hell yeah. If the pass gets there online, it's usually not dropped.
Yeah, we look at Don Blaylock, unbelievable, and Pickens, all these guys. But the biggest deal, like I said, is just having a visual, develop that visual acuity where you can look the ball in and look the ball all the way into the laces, or look it read the back of the ball, whatever it might be. But we used to have put some numbers around the ball, and when as a guy caught it, he had to say the number that he saw on the ball. It was a good way to teach him to look it in. Another way is to put your chest on a goal post and just lean forward on the post so you can't use your body, and throw the ball all around the clock there and make the guy use his hands. And the best thing for teaching a young person how to use his hands is to lay on it, for him or the young lady lay on their back, and you just stand over them and just drop the ball, and they've got to react with their hands and their eyes to where. But you take away,
I'd love to see that.
You take away the speed of the ball, because a lot of times kids are afraid of it, and the way you throw the ball, it's harder for them to catch it. But by making it real easy, they can use their hands and learn where to put their hands. It's kind of like an infielder learning how to use his glove, sit on the floor and put the glove down there and make him use it up and down and all. But we're in a football situation here, but I do think you can. I just hate to go to a practice and hear somebody say, "Catch the ball." No kidding.
We
Why?
all screamed it from the stands. Catch
Why?
the goddamn
Yeah,
ball.
really. What? Why are you missing it? Is your head? That's another thing with receivers. Know where the ball's being launched because you want to turn your head and eyes before you actually do your body, so you know where the ball's coming from, and then you can adjust. So a lot of little things there, but when a guy's throwing the ball 55 to 60 miles an hour coming at you, you better have some good techniques to use it. But so going ahead, we got some. We want to what do we want to talk about?
Well, we're talking about the question you said.
I'm sure a lot of people have already turned off and say, "Look, I didn't want to listen to a Jim Donnan fundamental clinic here." Like, that's terrible. I
It's okay.
apologize for that. I
It's
apologize.
okay. You
That was
go off on a tangent. We let you do your thing.
that was about as bad a start as I could have as far as trying to keep anybody's attention. But
Hey, see, Dane's not here. You had your chance to step up and be a general manager, and you went full coach.
yeah,
So you missed
I
your
could
shot.
be a general manager. I've been watching all this saga about Rodgers and Lamar Jackson, and boy, I tell you, that's an interesting scenario there. Right, I wonder what Todd Munkin's thinking right now.
Poor Todd.
Uh,
Why
who's,
the hell did I take this job?
yeah, who's going to learn his offense? But go ahead.
You mentioned early on we were asking about when did the position battles hit, and you mentioned can't really make any big decisions until after that first scrimmage. And Miss Emery has a good question here because we broke the news earlier this past weekend at UGA Sports. So again, if you're not a member of UGA Sports, you need to be a member because that's where the news breaks. So we told people that Kendall Milton had a hamstring injury. Probably will keep him out for the spring. We'll wait until Saturday. We get to talk to Kirby Smart. We'll find out how bad it is. But we broke the news that Kendall Milton's down. So Miss Emery says, which running back do you expect to fill Milton's vacancy? He'll be back in the fall, but he has had trouble playing an entire season without injury, which objectively true. Or not maybe being limited, but also Dejan Edwards isn't exactly 100%. So in your guesstimate, who steps in there?
Well, first of all, as a coach, secretly, I'm kind of glad he's going to miss a little bit because he's not going to get hurt. Like a real. I mean, a hamstring's bad, but he's not going to get hurt his knee or hurt his shoulder, have surgery or something. So, and we've got 8 or 9 practices left here, but and then Edwards, we know what he can do. I mean, it's going to be a good opportunity, kind of like last spring when Bowers and Washington were out. Delp and Gilbert got a lot more work with the better unit. So, and that's one of the things that you really perplexed as a coach here because of one thing here, the transfer portal. You better give every guy out there every opportunity to play, and then he can dig his own ditch or build his own star because these guys are going to see the writing on the wall, and all of a sudden your depth is hurt. So that's why you see a lot of substituting and a lot of people playing more than maybe. Well, why aren't we hearing a lot about McConkey and Roseby and people like that and Dylan Bell? Well, you're hearing a lot about these newer guys because you want to let them know what to do, but at the same time you want to keep them healthy. And you got a guy like Blasky who deserves a chance. He's been around here a long time, and Ernest Green's only been here a year, and you want to give him every chance to win the job too at left tackle. So you just don't march in a guy and move him in right away as a starter until he earns it, and you give the other guys a really good opportunity.
Well, you mentioned transfer portal. That's a good question for Phil Rogers. Says, Coach, do we need to get another running back in the transfer portal? Are you're going to have?
I really don't think so. At this point, we've got some really good auxiliary running backs. I really like as you do too, Cash Jackson and that Clark kid,
Cash Jones, Savon Clark.
These guys are players. There's a tendency to worry about guys that like Milton. Maybe he has had some injuries, but both of them were, to one of them to his knee, and then the other one he pulled his hamstring. But I don't know. It's very difficult to bring in a transfer running back that's not going to be the horse. You know what I mean? He's got to be the man to leave another school where he was the man, and now he wants to be maybe get the NIL or whatever. A good example is Gibbs. A guy that we didn't really recruit that hard out of high school. I don't know how hard we did or not, but he went to Tech, and then he was up in the air about where he's going to go. And I know Georgia would have had a shot at him, I would think. But, we kept our group intact, and he went to Alabama, and now he's going to get drafted pretty high. But that's the point. If you're going to take a transfer running back, you're basically saying that we need a starter. You're not going to get a good transfer back to come in here and be third or fourth guy. And
that's a good point.
This guy makes a really good question, though. Do we need one? Depth-wise, you would think so, but we got good depth with these other guys that he could play for a lot of schools. Cash Jones, he could play for a lot of schools. He's a great special teams guy, and deep down, if things get hunky-dory and we got to have it, I'm putting 19 back there.
All right, Brock Bowers, load up and running back. I like it. I like it a lot. Phil had a
I'm talking about as a backup, can run the ball out of the backfield, can catch the ball, can block the protections, but he's an ace at doing that. And we were ready to do that a couple of times last year when all of a sudden we got some injuries. But we'll be good at running back.
And there's a funny is you bring that up, and I think we kind of maybe hinted at it one time. I don't know that anybody knew that for certain, but it's funny how much stuff you find out. Like out of the coaching clinic, we found out that on Georgia's last PAT against Ohio State, two guys on the edges had never played there before, and the coaches are kind of worried about it. You find out stuff like what? There's so many untold stories. That's why we love to dig about stuff like that. But Phil had a good question. He says, Coach Donnan, will the big back from California get a lot more reps now?
Sure. He'll just jump up in there and run for everyone that Milton doesn't run. He'll be running in there because you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Edwards is first, and then 22's next, and then he'll jump in there. And he's really starting to blossom a little bit. Came in a little heavy, but I just think got some good skills. And if we put him and 22 back there in the same backfield, those guys are huge.
That's some beef.
When you think about it, the guy scored 2 touchdowns in the national championship game, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
That's pretty nice.
Branson Robinson, who squats 700 pounds.
Not many guys can ever say they did that. Even he doesn't, when he's 50 years old, he doesn't need to say he was coming in there with the ERWs. But
explain what an ERW is, Coach. We got new people watching.
A lot of people that eat the pregame meal, ride to the stadium, and warm up, and that's it. They don't get to play. But he came in there with that group and just killed. We had some scholarship guys in there, but he just made TCU look bad, and he's getting better all the time. And guys like him and Dylan Bell, we can't take them for granted. They're players now. They can make plays.
Yeah, I just think about last week. You said that Georgia's defense was going to be better this year than it was last year, and that's fair. But it's tough to imagine that when you went 15-0 and gave up so few points.
You think Georgia's defense was good last year?
It's just tough for me to see Jalen Carter leaving and
it was
going to be better. Keely Ringo, I'm with you.
Not as good as the year before, though.
No, but it's still.
We gave up.
There's so many questions. I'm like, it's tough for me to say this year would be better, but I agree with you. I do.
We're not going to give up 41 points in a game.
Yeah, because I look at the fact that we haven't guys we take for granted or might maybe take it for granted. Jalen Walker, Darius Smith, Marvin Jones Jr., who's out right now. Michael Williams, a true freshman. Malachi Starks, a true freshman last year. Bear Alexander, true freshman last year. All these guys, we don't talk about Warren Brinson or Nazir Stackhouse as much as we should. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. Then you get Zion Logue and Tramel Walther coming back. If you're Trey Scott, you got to be thinking my depth this year is so much better than last year. And then those 3 monster outside linebackers you brought in, Gabe Harris, Samuel Mpemba, those guys are gigantic. It's a filthy looking defense, and
Right.
it's easy to gloss right over a Dylan Everett. Hell, Nyland Green. Are we talking about Nyland Green at all? Julian Humphreys. It's like that's a 5-star cornerback that 10 years ago, that's all we could talk about is, hey, there's that 5-star cornerback. How's he going to do? Is he the shutdown corner? We don't even talk about Julian Humphrey at all. But to your point, when you said some guys we just gloss over because we're thinking about the new ones, again, we're still caught up on those individual position battles and kind of just taking for granted some guys that have been here.
It's normal society to worry about what you don't have instead of what you have. That's just normal. But I like what our draw is, what our pool is, what we got and the competitive nature of each guy knowing that you can't take any slack because you got somebody breathing down your neck. So, we got some really good talent all across the board there. It's really impressive.
I got another question for you, kind of about the transfer portal here. It goes back to how guys that catch. You brought up Blaylock and talked about great. Blaylock was a great possession receiver. Has he found a new team? If not, is there any chance he could come back to Georgia?
I think once you say you're leaving, it's hard to come back. Mims did, but excuse me, I think Blaylock is still going to school here, but I would think based on the amount of people that we've got at that position and the fact we brought in 2 transfers and maybe 3 scholarship players that, the reason he's leaving is because of getting an opportunity to play more. So it could happen. You never know.
But I just don't think that Georgia's got room right now. Seems to me when they say, hey, you put your name in the portal, they're like, okay, congratulations, good luck to you. We'll write a letter of recommendation wherever you go. But we're bringing in Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett. And then
I just believe based on what he does, special teams, what he does around the program, that if he wanted to come back, Kirby let him come back.
Okay. I always just worry about the number.
Well, don't worry about it. Have you ever heard of NIL?
That's true.
We got guys that get stuff. Everybody's got people getting stuff that don't get scholarship, but that's the way.
A good point. You come back as a preferred walk-on and get a huge NIL deal. So
I don't think you get a huge one, but you get
something. So I appreciate
that. You have to pay for your school.
Yeah. Question from Junkyard Dog says, have you heard anything about the newest class of freshman receiver recruits? Williams, Haynes, and Evans. I haven't heard that much.
Yeah, I think all 3 of them are just getting their ducks in a row, learning what to do, and they're in a situation where you bring in 2 transfers like we did, that they're going to get the first look because all of a sudden, they were starting on teams where they came from. So they'll be a lot happier if they're getting to play as compared to sharing reps with some freshmen that hadn't even played in practice here. So you got to be fair, but you got to be realistic too. So we've got investment in those guys as far as, what we told them. I don't know what was told them, but Kirby won't make a lot of promises about playing time, but these freshmen will come along and they got speed. And of course, we haven't even mentioned Arian Smith. Arian is
the guy we took for granted.
Arian will really prosper under Coach Bobo, and I think he'll be a real significant factor in our team.
I can definitely see him. Of course, what you're getting in Lad McConkey. Marcus Rosemy-Jackson's taken off. Still can throw to Brock Bowers. Throwing to Arian is huge. Then bring in 2 of the most prolific guys in the SEC and Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett. That's a pretty legit receiver class right there. And that's nothing to take away from the freshman guys, but
yeah. And 23 is pretty good too. Young freshman, he got hurt last year a little bit, but he's going to be a player too.
And Dylan Bell, that's one of the guys you mentioned as taken for granted. He's a huge dude.
Dylan Bell is a real deal.
So I like what they got there. Mention real quick here. I want to talk about our friends over at My Perfect Franchise. We've had people at UGASports.com decide that they want to get out of the rat race, if you will. They want to try something different. They want to be their own boss. They want to have a different income source. They don't want to be punching the clock for somebody else. And I know it sounds a little like, well, how does it work, Roddy? If you go to myperfectfranchise.net, check it out. You'll see that it basically just starts with a phone call. You reach out, you call Andy Ludecki, call him on a cell phone. He'll answer. His services are free, doesn't cost you anything. He's going to talk to you about what do you want to do, what are your goals, and then he has a confidential questionnaire you fill out. Very simple. Once you've filled out the questionnaire, they schedule a consultation. Then they find the perfect franchise for you. Okay, for kind of your lifestyle. Do you want to continue in your current job? Do you want to quit and go into this full time? Do you want something on the side? It's your call. Do you want something you want to do on the weekends? And then they match you up with a perfect franchise. So it's a great system. Just go to myperfectfranchise.net. Reach out to Anthony Ludecki. It's incredibly simple to do. It's not that hard, and doesn't cost you anything. So when I tell you, you have nothing to lose by reaching out to him, even if you just want to talk football. He's a rabid football fan. He'll be more than happy to talk to you about it. Also want to mention our friends over at Dead Soxy, a fantastic company. They love football fans. They love Georgia fans. There's a couple Ole Miss grads. They have to like Georgia because Georgia faces Ole Miss and has won a lot. So I won't say if they dislike Mississippi State, but I just assume that they do. But these are two, the guys that founded are huge college football fans, and they know that you need good socks. So they make fantastic socks. They're really comfortable. They're incredibly soft. They stay up, and they make them in cool colors and cool designs. Now you wonder why would a sports podcast, have advertisements about socks? It's because they're just damn good socks. Try them out. You'll absolutely love them. Plenty of our members at UGASports.com have tried them, and they say they're the best things they've ever bought when it comes to socks, and they won't buy any other kind. So from athletic to lounging to dress socks, boardroom, game day, check out our friends at Dead Soxy. You will be happy that you did. Coach, we have a little video here I want to run from the earlier. We talked to Tate Ratledge, spoke to Smile Munden, and I want to talk about Tate Ratledge because, again, we're always asking about quarterback battles, position battles, and Tate had something right along the lines of what you're saying. This was about how what they're trying to do on the offensive line.
I think one of Coach Searles' goals is to find a starting five and then find a backup group there's not much drop off. And I think right now we do a lot where everybody gets a lot of reps, so there's no telling. People are getting a lot of reps every practice.
Your thoughts?
Yeah, he sounds like a coach about a lot of reps because we've talked about before, but just for the fans out there from a structure standpoint, you got 85 players on scholarship and you got some other guys that are out there, over 100 players, and you only got a 2 hour, 15-minute window. And what you don't want to have is a lot of people standing around. So we have what we call a two spot where instead of one group going against the other and the rest of them standing around, nobody ever sits out there. At the other end of the field or on the other field, they're doing the same exact drill or the same exact team function. And they got people working with them. So everybody's getting the same kind of reps. You know what I mean? So at one end, you could have 1 versus 2, 1 offense versus 2 defense. And at the other end, you could have two offense versus 1 defense, or at one end, you could have 1.5 groups of first team and a little bit of second, and with them interspersed in and out at one end. And then the other end, you could have the 3s and some of the 2s. So the idea is that you can't learn just by watching somebody. You got to go out there and do it. And I like the rep part of it. I know when I talked to Bill Walsh a long time ago, 1974 or something like that, he was talking about individual drills during practice. he said instead of a coach reinforcing in his mind and telling everybody what to do after every rep. So, for instance, say you're running a quarterback, handing the ball off to a back, what we call play polish, working on the mechanics of it. Instead of having one quarterback and one back, have all four of them doing the same thing and film it, and then you can coach off the film, and they get that many more reps instead of waiting your turn. First guy hands off, then the second guy hands off. So you get 4 times as many reps, and who cares if the coach misses something that you took the wrong step or something like that? You'll pick that up later. It's just good to have a lot more individuals working at the same time. So that's what they do.
Makes perfect sense. One of the things I really learned from you, because I always thought that the number 2 guy at left guard, the number 2 guy, at right guard, the number 2 center, the number 2 left tackle, number 2 right, if the first guy went down, you immediately put in the number 2. And you've taught us, well, that's not always the case. Sometimes you have your starting 5, then you have a number 6 guy, then you have a number 7 guy, depending, centers and tackles will be different.
Well, it's hard for a guy to know every position,
yeah,
and particularly the center, because of all the intricacies of the shotgun snap and making the calls and all that. But if you can have a guy that can be a kind of a Swiss Army knife and can go play all 3, but he's the next best player, it's ridiculous for him to be on the sideline and a guy that's not as good as him playing that other position because he hasn't been trained. The first guy hasn't been trained to play it. So, and the way they call plays now with so many words and things like that are indicative of what the play is, it's easy to go in there and play that position, and maybe it used to be where you didn't do it like that. But I do feel like that sometimes by moving you around, sometimes you kind of find your niche. I mean, you might not be quite as good as a tackle as you thought you'd be, but being in there guard where you're not having to do certain things like a tackle and maybe using your skills a little bit better that way, it's a good way to get them ready. Same thing we do in the secondary, training the guy to be cover guy at corner and also support guy, moving back to safety or being a nickel guy. So it's a real fine line. And what the coaches do for our fans here is constantly during the summer, fall, winter, you rate your players 1 through 40, and you see how these guys rate. And if you've got 27 of them on defense and 13 on offense, then you need to start moving around a little bit there. That's why you get some position changes and all. But how does this guy rate on our team? Who is the number 1 player on our team? Who is the number 2? Like that. Well, you got to do that, and then you cross it over to the same thing on the specific position. Who's the number 1 guy? And if all of a sudden 2 of the top 7 guys on your team are tight ends, or you just got to move people around. I mean,
I got you. Well,
I had some things that I did bad as a coach, but I felt like one of the good things I did was move guys in position to play that weren't playing, help them out and where our squad needed them, and convince them that, our team can be better with you playing here instead of there. So the constant evaluation of personnel is just critical. And within that, you're talking to your strength coach. How is he developing him for that position? You're talking to the nutritionist about gaining or losing weight. You're talking about the academic people about how much stress is he having academically trying to compete here. I mean, all these things enter into getting a guy in a position where he can contribute to your team.
All right, well, I'm going to put you on the spot about who can contribute in that 6th, 7th, 8th spot on the offensive line. I know they're still trying to find the starting 5. But,
well, you got to look at Blasky as can play several positions.
Okay.
And you got Green, who's a very talented guy. So the first thing you got to do is get a left tackle, because the other 4 are pretty constant. I mean, Mims has played and started at right tackle. Radledge is a starter. Van Pran's a starter, and Truss is a starter. Now, what you got to look at is Truss better than any tackle we got and are these guards better than any of these tackles that we got? So if they are, then Truss moves out the tackle, and one of those guards moves in ahead of Blasky and Green, because what we just said. Did you catch that, or was that too
No,
fast?
I did. Well, that's why I'm putting you on the spot. I'm taking the lesson you just taught me, and I'm asking you to fill it out, fill in the numbers for me.
So you got to look at can Wilson, can Micah Morris,
Wilson, Michael,
can these guys jump in there, and that you got Monroe Freeling coming in here, who is a highly recruited guy that might not be a left tackle because he's not ready, but he could be a heck of a right tackle, or you know what I mean. So
really?
does that mean moving Mims over? So you're looking at all those different scenarios.
Gotcha. Speaking of this, that same concept, but let's switch to the defense. Now, over the weekend, when we mentioned the Kendall Milton thing, we also heard that they were looking at Javon Bullard at safety. Now, this is a guy who won MVP awards in the last two, in the championship game and the playoff game, basically playing that star role. And I mean, his breakup in the end zone there changed the outcome of that playoff game. Guys, great in tackle, 2 interceptions in the championship game. Again, MVP awards. And I'm not saying they're thinking about it, but we heard that he played some at safety. So give us your thoughts on why and wherefore with that.
I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth except just my own opinion, but
Yeah, that's what we want.
The same thing you're looking at with trying to find a tackle to start. You lost Chris Smith. So you got 2 guys in Tyke Smith and Javon Bullard that both have played and have started. Tyke started and played well at West Virginia, had a knee injury, but came back and played some at the end of the year. So are we better off with Bullard playing safety instead of one of these younger guys and Tyke being the star? Or, you know, when we say star, everybody knows that's a nickel guy. Okay, he's not just being the best player on the team. And
That's a good point, because some people may not know that.
He's the guy that plays as the 5th defensive back to play the slot. So there's the question: is Bullard better back there than Dan Jackson, who can't practice right now because of an injury, or one of these younger guys that playing Tyke in there, or a guy like Aguero coming in here? Can he play star and let Bullard play back there, or can Aguero play safety and move him in there? So that's the way you look at with Bullard. I mean, he's one of your best players. He's physical, he's smart, he can play all those positions. So at this point, I would say they're looking at getting their best 11 on the field for practice for the spring, and then go from there, cross-train him. So if something would happen to Malachi or to Jackson, he could go back there right away. He's had all that spring practice training. He's already played 15 games at Star. He knows how to do it. So another good case of Kirby playing the percentages and looking ahead. And same thing with our secondary coaches, Muschamp, and making sure that we can have some depth there. If we, you know, that's the way I'd look at that move with Bullard.
It makes perfect sense. And that seems more than I don't know. My first thought when I heard it, I'm like, is this one of those? And it's very unfair of me to think this, but I'm just so used to, like you mentioned, putting Brock Bowers maybe in at running back, or when they would put the big guys back there, you know, Jalen Carter and guys like that, let them go at tight end. I thought, oh no, I just had it in my mind that Javon Bullard is the nickel guy, because he's, you know, why would you dare move him when you're when he was so?
Yeah, but if you get back to you made a couple statements. Now I'm going to start talking. If you seriously though, if you look at Bullard, he played really good, but
yeah,
he's not the cover guy that he is the support guy and the zone guy. You know what I mean? He's not a man-on-man type guy. You look at that guy from Georgia Tech beating him on the corner route. You look at the guy from Mississippi State beating him on the goal line. I mean, people get beat. That happens. But I would say of his strengths, that's not one of his best, but he got better at it. But he's a trained physical guy that can just support the run.
Perfect safety.
He's good but again, it's like we used to have what we call the New York Life team. It was our insurance team, where and it kind of started at Marshall where we didn't have the numbers, but you can't just sell the ranch when you get an injury and you say, well, hey, we lost our safety, we got our ass, but hey, we still got a chance to win. So teach a couple of receivers how to go in there in nickel situations, or teach a defensive lineman to go in on the goal line. I remember Johnny McKee, big old kid that I talked out of leaving town because I gave him a bus ticket so he could go home for spring break. Big old defensive lineman. I put him in on the goal line on offense like we did with Carter here, because he could splatter you. So I think you just use your insurance team in case you have a disaster. I mean, you got to be able to get some good players out there instead of somebody that is just not good enough. And so we're constantly, you hear Schumann talking about we're cross training these guys where they can play corner and safety, linebacker where they can play maybe an outside rush guy on a pass rush, a D lineman where they can play inside and out. So that's what you got to do in today's game.
No, it makes perfect sense. I love the idea of him being there, but that brings up the question: if he's there, and you got Tyke Smith, who came in, I think Georgia recruited him specifically to be that nickel guy. Who plays the other cornerback spot? I know you won't answer the quarterback question because I don't think anything's been decided there, but I thought it's Dalen Everett. But then I hear Julian Humphreys is doing well. But then you got Nyland Green.
Yeah, I think
or do we have any idea, or is it still way too early?
What you got to do there is, first of all, they're doing an inordinate amount of drill work where you see half line where the ball's on the boundary and you've got 2x2 into the boundary in the corner, and the star are reading combination routes, and the will linebackers dropping on the hash. And at the same time, you got 3x1 to the field. And after that play's over, then the boundary corner is watching, and the field corner is playing it along with the star and the safety there. So they're reading these routes, but it's not a team situation. But you're getting a feel for how they can adjust to different looks. Is the guy releasing inside? Is he releasing outside? How's it split? All those things, playing the field. And the quarterback's reading the coverage at the same time, estimating the defensive intent, how they're playing this, what are they doing? So, but you're getting a lot of quick reps. So if you could just envision the ball's on the right hash, the defense is to the left, the weak corner and the defensive back are in there against two receivers and a back, and there's no line blocking, and you're just throwing routes. And then to the field, you're doing the X. Then the next day they come out, they put the ball into the other hash, and that corner's playing boundary and the other guy. So those safeties and those corners are getting a lot of looks. And then when they come out, then the other ones come in. But while they're doing that at one end of the field, the other group's doing it at the other end. So they're getting about 20, 25 reps a piece in about a 7-minute period of constant blah, 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 blah.
I'm tired just talking about it.
Lasting you. But the point is, all those things add up to whether you're going to be in there in team situations. And Julian Humphrey didn't play a lot last year. He got a lot of those reps, and he's starting to come up. And he's got world-class speed. This guy's probably the fastest corner we got. Maybe he might not be. I don't see these GPS scores. I know coming in he was really fast. And then you got Everett, who got all those reps last year with the second team and played some in games, that really has the knowledge. And then Nyland Green was ready to go. Then he got hurt. But I'd say out of those three, and then you add Lester, you can't ask for more than 4 corners. I mean, most people like to have 2. So I don't know that we have 2 yet. I know we got 1 that's played, but we got good reps out there. And then we got that Harris kid coming in. Isn't that his name?
Yes, sir.
What's number 5? I don't know. We got corner coming in, and we got Aguero playing back there in the safety, and I think our secondary has got maybe not the experience, but it's got the overall value and the talent level. I mean, I like it.
See, there you go, talking about how good the defense is going to be, even though I'm a non-believer.
Let me tell you this. they are getting world-class coverage coaching back there. Kirby Smart, what has he won? 6 national championships? I mean,
he's okay.
Bus champ. I know he won 2 here. He won 1, maybe 1 at Texas, 1 at LSU. And then one of the things you bring in with the secondary coach that came from Rutgers is all the work that he had with Greg Sciano, who was a tremendous defensive coach. And this guy's turned into an ace recruiter, and he's a good technique guy too. And plus you got some grad assistants and student assistants working with him on technique. If you're going to play secondary in this league, you better be able to play man coverage, and you better be able to play press technique. And so
even got Smoke Bowie in there too.
Yeah, well, Bowie, he's playing star and safety. Let me just tell you this: you're just getting. I mean, if you're gonna get some cake mix, back in my day, you get Betty Crocker. Hey, you get the same thing here with Kirby Smart, man. You're getting coaching. You get some good coaching.
That's true.
You ever heard of Betty Crocker?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I can bake a cake. I can add the 2 eggs and the 3rd cup of oil and a cup of water and make my Betty Crocker cake mix. I know what I'm doing. I'm not no steward. But let's talk about the fact if you don't know what you're doing and you want to have fantastic food, hit up our friends at Prime Shrimp. Okay, it's a super simple way to make fantastic shrimp because basically what they're going to do is they process it, they devein it, they dehead it, they take all the shell off of it. They put these perfect, raw shrimp into a bag with seasoning, and they freeze it. Okay, flash frozen. And the bags are just like the bags you used to get minute rice in. They don't have all the little holes in them, but you can boil these bags. So you go to the site that we have up on there. Go to primeshrimp.com. Put in promo code UGASports. Get 20% off your order. You can see like this signature Cajun seasoned shrimp. Again, you're not going to get this Cajun seasoning just anywhere. You get it from those guys, and it's $10. Okay, it's got 2 bags in it. 2 bags of shrimp. You take one out, you throw it into boiling water, you flip it 1 time, maybe twice, 4, 6, 8 minutes. You're done. Take it out, let it cool. Cut open the bag. Drop it onto your grits. Drop it onto your pasta. Drop it into your salad. It's super simple. Use promo code UGA Sports to get 20% off. So what? $8 instead of 10. So hit up our friends at Prime Shrimp. You're absolutely going to love it, and it's one of the easiest things out there. Also want to mention our friends when you get a chance, you need to swing by Academia Brewing Company. Okay, they are always doing something neat out there. They have a poker night, they have bike night. The poker night is going to be really cool. So it has its own beer list, has its own cocktails, has its own food. Bike night's the same thing. They had a fashion show out there just recently. Of course, the St. Patrick's Day celebration was insane. I already heard stories about that. And of course, they also have a huge event space out there. So if you need to do something for a wedding, graduation, a corporate event, it's just very great. It's a very great place to go eat, drink, and have your events. So try Academia Brewing Company when you get a chance. I can tell you for certain, Matt Casey's been to both national championships. The guy that started the whole thing is an absolute diehard dog fan. So if you just want to go out there, sit in the lounge, sit in the beer garden outside, and talk football with Matt Casey, he will indulge you, I guarantee it. All right, Coach, we don't have a whole lot of time left here, but let's hit a couple more questions before we take off. This is from Super John Goldsmith. He says, Coach, how do you judge a quarterback battle when some QBs run as part of their game, yet in spring they can't be hit or touched? Does a spring ball always favor the less mobile JT Daniels types?
Yeah, but I think to a certain extent that's a good question about they can't be, but they also let them avoid the rush and do everything. You just can't put them on the ground. You know what I'm saying? So let's just say we're having a scrimmage and the guy has a black shirt on, and that means he can't be hit. And the defense rushes the passer, and then the quarterback runs and makes a first down. Well, Kirby decides whether the defense could have tackled him or not. You know what I mean?
Okay.
He'll say sack. The guy ran, but the guy pulled off and he could have knocked it. Or he'll say, hey, we couldn't get him. So, I mean, the referee can't make that decision, but they ask them to do that. Or like in particular, they'll run a zone read and then a quarterback will keep it for a first down. Well, if the defensive end collapse, then they're going to give them the first down. So you can't get that as much, but they do running drills where quarterbacks have to, run the ball in an open field and the guy come up and bump them and all. But you got a pretty good feel about their agility and ability to avoid the rush and all that. But the other thing that you like as a defensive coach is you don't want your secondary to get a false sense of security because your defensive line is just mashing the quarterback and you're getting all these sacks and the ball's not ever in the air. By the quarterback being able to not be sacked like that, you get a lot more balls in the air and the guys have to play the ball as compared to a false sense of security about we got such a great pass rush, they're not going to get it off. So you get exposed a little bit like that. But again, that's the head coach challenging the team and making them play their position and then going back to the tape and saying, look, you can see we're going to have the value of don't get too shell shocked because they're throwing the ball on us. We're going to get a rush on them. That's going to help you too.
That's a good point. Last question, Coach. This is from Bob Clyburn. How do you judge how good a recruiter a coach is? Is it based on what the recruits themselves say? Is it based off recruiting stars and that the coaches players have? It just seems very subjective. I think that's a good question I wanted to end on. We know Kirby's lined up a murder's row of recruiters and shows when you see them line up. But how does the coaches, how did you do it?
Very good question. And a couple points there. The first thing is you can tell by the ones that he misses on is his talent evaluation. The guy that misses a lot's not very good because you got to have a guy that can look into the future and project where's he going to be 2-3 years from now as compared to as he met his standard. Is he going to get any better? You look at what your standards are on your team, and over the years, there's not, you're always hearing about, well, this guy's got a lot of fight, and even though he's short, he's going to be a player. Hey, I'm not going to bite on that one. I mean, you got your standards, and height, weight, skill level, all that. But if you're a good recruiter, you're going to be able to recruit that guy once he gets there too. You're going to keep working on him, developing him and caring about him off the field. And the best thing that can happen is your own players talk up that coach to the recruits that come in. But as far as what he said about the stars and all that, they don't get into that as much as they get into what the team needs, comparing their evaluations to what they want to get and the standards. In the end, the head coach makes a decision, but the position coach knows what he needs at that position. So I don't get that deal about a guy. He's not a good recruiter, but he's a good coach, or he's a good coach, but he's a good, whatever it means. To be a good coach, you got to be a good recruiter because you got to keep developing those players and get them developing the trust in you as you help them grow as men. And I think the bottom line, the real ace recruiter, when push comes to shove, that guy can't tell you no. I mean, you're a salesman and you're just not going to, you're going to do you're going to unhook every latch, do everything possible to make sure that person knows that and the family that they can trust you and that you're going to help them become the best player they can be.
Perfect. Hi, folks. That's a great question. Great answer. I appreciate it. And my thanks to Jim Donnan for joining us today. We're going to have to take off here. Next Tuesday, I'll be back next Tuesday. I'm going to Hamburg with the missus. So I will miss. I'm sure somebody will probably commit while I'm gone. It usually happens.
Probably will. That's it. Do you want me to tell that joke? at the end, or you just let's go?
I think you should tell it.
So this guy's in a bar and he goes in, he orders a drink, and right when he gets the drink, he looks in his pocket, and then he orders about 3 or 4 more, and every time he gets the same deal. He looks in his pocket right after he gets the drink, and then he tells the bartender, said, "Hey, close me out. I'm getting ready to go." And the bartender said, "Well, I'll be glad to, but I'd just like to ask you a question. You've had 5 drinks of the same drink, and every time right after I give it to you, you look in your pocket and then you drink it." He said, "What's the deal?" He says, "It's pretty easy." He says, "I got a picture of my wife in there, and every time I look at her, the more she starts to look good, and I know that I got to go home."
I died when you told me that.
Oh, man.
Oh, you're going to get us in so much trouble. I love it. I wish my dad was around. I really do. I would have loved to have called and told him that joke. He'd have died.
All right. Have a good trip, Roddy. You deserve it.
All right, folks. We'll see you next Tuesday. I'll be back in time, and we'll be recapping the first scrimmage. We'll talk to you later. Take care.